This underscores the federal government of Nigeria's commitment to opening up the budget process and making it more participatory.
Over 50% is for infrastructure. So we want to do roads, we want to do railway, we want to do power, all the things that will get contractors back to work.
Also contained in the budget of the Federal Ministry of Works, Power and Housing is an omnibus allocation of 20 billion. The details were not provided by the minister. The National Assembly will be irresponsible to appropriate funds that are not tied to specific projects.
The synergy between the legislature and the executive ought to really take place before the presentation of the budget.
An aberration. It's a misnomer to have members of the National Assembly recreating the budget.
For somebody to come out and say that this particular house has no right to modify or alter, or rather it has introduced some other projects, I think that has tantamount to at least suppressing our powers as legislators, as enshrined in the Constitution.
Under our watch, there's no way this House will be a rubber stamp of any executive measures.
The time that we consult and do our best to make the work for the executive and assist them. But as we bend backwards, I don't think that should be misconstrued or misrepresented.
Welcome back, everyone. Let me get some last thoughts of Mr. Falana on the issue of budget before we move into other issues. You heard different debates on it that people have had on channels television here. But as it stands now, the controversy over the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, which the Federal Ministry of Works says there is a threat on that project, and the National Assembly will say, look, we spread the fund across and we are waiting a PPP arrangement. But the Federal Ministry of Works will say, look, it's an imaginary arrangement which will frustrate. At this point, apart from the fact that you went to court, what do you think the executive should be doing such that it doesn't look like they have been twisted by the National Assembly?
No, you know what has happened since 1999? It's usually a decision by the executive to allow the National Assembly members to waste their time by simply saying, okay, you have inserted strange elements into the budget. We're not going to touch them. And so you always have this allegation of the executive not implementing the budget, or implementing the budget maybe 40 or 50%. And it's not good for the nation, because we are talking of a law. So they shouldn't allow the executive to pick and choose. But if you engage in illegality, and the other side also decide to treat the law with contempt, it doesn't make room for the rule of law. So what I think should be done this time around, because we must put an end to this on needless controversy on a yearly basis. I mean, it's due now. I mean, we're just talking of the 2017 budget just been signed.
We're entering to the second half of the year.
Now. So I think we should put an end to this debate. And the best way forward, in my own case, I've gone to the Court of Appeal, but that will take some time. I think either the executive or the National Assembly should approach the Supreme Court so that we can have a final and definitive pronouncement of the Apex Court on the state of the law with respect to the budget of the country.
All right, from the eviction notice by some northern youth groups to the sit-at-home protests by IPOP groups in the southeast region of the country, and the different meetings by religious and traditional leaders, it is clear there is an urgent need to fix the very disturbing situation in the country. Mr. Falana is still with us here. We've seen all of these meetings that the acting president is holding. Do you think that's a panacea to resolving these agitations across the country? Is swollen, is getting loud and loud every day from each part of the regions of the country?
For the young people, for the youth groups that are engaged in this promotion of politics of hate and separatist agenda, Nigerians must realize that the young people in the country are generally disenchanted They are frustrated because their hopes have been dashed. And in the midst of the hopelessness, young people are witnessing, in the midst of unemployment, poverty, young men are witnessing very provocative, ostentatious display of opulence, whereby you can have about 30, 40 aircraft landing in a city where somebody is having a wedding for, his son or daughter. Or a situation whereby millions of dollars are being kept in soakaway or toilets or whatever. These are enough provocations to confuse young people, which I think is what is going on. When I did say during the week that Mr. Yerima Shettima, who gave a quick notice,
it was one of the group
to Igbo people living in the north, lives in Lagos. I've known him for over 25 years. He lives in Idiaraba. The other young man, Mr. Kanu, who is also talking of, let's break it up. Talking of Biafra, lives in London. He has 2 passports, a British passport and a Nigerian passport. But for me, that is not to say we should dismiss their anger and confusion. What should be done beyond the meetings with political leaders is to find out, while our young men and women are asking for the dismemberment of the country, why are they being forced to preach hate? Why are they being forced to embrace the balkanization of the country? Those questions for me are not being addressed yet.
You did say
the question of justice, the question of equity, the question of fair play in political appointments, in the allocation of resources. We must find out who gets what, how and when.
Mr. Falana, you did say that the government of the APC is not sincere on the issue of restructuring. What did you mean?
No, what I'm saying is that the first item in the manifesto of the APC is to the effect that the APC, if elected into power, will restructure the country in order to realize true federalism and restore the federal spirit. That's the first paragraph of the manifesto of the APC.
But
therefore,
Alhaji Lai Mohammed.
No, with profound respect to Alhaji Lai Mohammed and the presidency, they cannot do that. The country voted for the APC on the basis of his manifesto. We are going to restructure the country. We are going to fight corruption. We are going to fight impunity. So you can't turn around and say, sorry, restructuring is not in our agenda. But that was how what you campaigned for. We didn't ask you to make an undertaking, to make a promise that we are going to restructure the country. And of course, happily, all the governors in the country met last week, and they have now resolved that they are embracing restructuring and federalism.